There's a world where every one of us is connected. Everyone. Everywhere. Where everyone is included. Where everyone has access to information, education, opportunity.
There's so much out there. I'm going.
There's a world where buildings are smarter, where automation fuels productivity. And our planet's health is as important as our own. There's a world where everyone is invited to participate, to contribute, to be bold. When everyone and everything is connected,
That's really beautiful.
anything is possible.
Good morning.
Cisco, the bridge to possible.
Every once in a while, an opportunity comes along. A really big opportunity. As in $6 trillion big. Because that's how much business is shifting to the cloud-native countries and the companies that are capitalizing on Wi-Fi everywhere with security. Like the Netherlands, where smart ports and connected highways are helping alleviate one of the most dense transportation networks in the world. In Italy, where Dallara helps automakers around the world make high-performance cars faster and safer. Cisco is digitally transforming their business, the way they work, think, and interact. At Rakuten in Japan, who partnered with Cisco to build the first cloud-based and fully virtualized mobile network. A model for the future of telecommunications around the world.
Oh my God.
The hyperfast connections and the wildly transfigured networks they will spawn is going to change everything. And only Cisco has the knowledge, the experience, and the solutions to make it happen. Between the internet that's here and the internet that's coming, there's a bridge. Cisco, the bridge to possible.
Hey, it's good to see you.
I know, right? Finally. Loving those shoes. Late for my meeting. Morning.
Let me show you. Q3 numbers are suggested.
Trey's their best player.
I'm still on my lunch.
Good morning. This is
The company we've trusted to keep us working remotely is the same company we'll trust to bring us back together. Back safely, with features like density monitoring to keep everyone properly distanced. Back securely, with more resilient, more robust protection to block threats faster.
WebEx, start the meeting.
And back responsibly, with touchless technology that connects everyone. So now, between a year of being apart and the joy of coming back together, there's a bridge. Cisco, the bridge to possible.
Okay, everyone, let's get started.
We're picking up this session from our friends in Netherlands. They were having a fantastic session on the 25th of March, where they had also a guest in the studio and covering the startup of intent-based network and how Cisco really has brought this to market. So today we are picking this up in Copenhagen. We're sending from Denmark, and I have with me here today. I'm not on my own. I have from our customer, Copenhagen University, Christian. So could you just introduce yourself?
Yes, hello. My name is Christian West. I'm working at the University of Copenhagen as a network specialist and team lead for the network team. And I'm a network lead architect on this campus LAN project.
Good. Welcome, Christian.
you.
We're very happy to have you
glad
here.
to be here. Yeah.
And I'm sure that you can share a lot of information with,
I hope so,
with
yeah.
the audience. Yeah. As well, we have my colleague here in Denmark, René Andersen, our technical solution architect. So René, will you introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Henrik. Yeah, my name is René Andersen, and I'm covering Denmark area and focusing on deploying DNA centers at customer sites, and of course the Catalyst business for the switching part primarily. So my work is primarily going out to customers, discussing the new technology that Cisco provides, and helping them to make it a very valuable use case for them.
Good, and welcome René. Happy to have you here as well. My name is Henrik Stær. On a daily basis, I run the specialist organization here in Cisco Denmark. So the agenda we have planned today is, of course, as we have Christian with us, we have René with us. We will have a discussion with Christian, what they really have done in real life on this getting real with DNA Center. We will then, as we have introduced Copenhagen University, talk a little bit more into the details and to see what have they really done, what technology use cases have they deployed. And we will finalize the session with some news on what's really coming next in DNA Center releases, and focus a little bit in on the ACI to SDA integration, and also the high availability features that we will announce and will release to the market on DNA Center. So that's the setup for today. I would like to welcome everyone listening in today to the session. I hope it's going to be valuable for you to attend. So welcome. I would like just to start up with how real are we in Denmark? How much have we really deployed of this software-defined technology in Denmark? And right now I'm going to show you a slide here and a picture that will help you to understand how well we've been doing. Since we released DNA Center and our software-defined access, we have now got to 130 deployments in the market. So we're actually very proud of that. We think we have been doing very well. It has been very well adopted in the market. If you look at the picture that you see here, the blue one and the yellow one shows that up to 80%, close to 80% of all the DNA centers we have out there have actually been starting using the platform. About 30% of the deployments, they are right now using the use case software-defined access as an end-to-end segmentation and policy fabric. The remaining, they use it for automation and for assurance. The verticals that we are in, we're spread wide across the verticals in the business. We're with pharma, we're with transport companies, we're with manufacturing. We have a lot of in government and municipalities, and also in healthcare we have deployed our DNA Center, and very successful. The largest scale deployment we have is up to 10,000 devices that will go onto the network, up to 100,000 endpoints, and they are at the moment deploying a worldwide setup of our DNA Center solution, and they are right now 75% finalized. So we see this also in very, very large scale. We're very, very proud of the results that we have achieved so far. If we go to the where we also see a lot in education, in the universities, we actually see a lot of success and a lot of real good use cases, because the universities are challenged with students coming in with their own devices. They need mobility across, and they need this to be secure across the campus, across the whole environment. So that's also the reason why we're very, very happy to have Christian with us today. So what we're going to jump onto now is to have just to have a short introduction to Copenhagen University. So with that, Christian, could you give us some, so that everyone listening in here would understand a little bit about, I know university, you know the university, but tell us a little about the size and the volume and the students. Yeah.
Yeah, so as the figure tells, we are close to 40,000 students. And I can add to these that we are approx 10,000 employees. Half of them is research. So we have a really big research area on the university. And then, of course, we have the administration employees, technical and academic people.
Yeah.
So it's a fairly old university. It's founded back in 1478 or 9, I think it was. So it has a lot of history in the buildings, and ever since it has been evolved. And I've been here for 9 years now, and when looking back, I can see it also on the technology side and in IT, it's been evolved, and now we are here with the brand new technology also to roll in.
Yeah. That's good for everyone to know, so that we have a good understanding of the size. So it's actually, you're the largest university, of course, we have in Denmark.
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
also one of the largest in Scandinavia.
Yeah, we have. I think it's around 1 million square meters of floor to cover with networking. Mostly, of course, will be wireless for the students, but also the wired part for employees and research. So it's quite a lot.
Good. Yeah. So going back to before you started this journey, can you speak a bit about what was the environment before you actually started? I know that you were the driver for a long-term architecture strategy for the university.
Yeah.
So where did you come from?
Yeah, well, if we go 3 years back, the organization was completely different on the IT area. We had several IT departments, one per faculty and then one in the administration. So I was in the administration dealing with the enterprise systems and data center and our Copenhagen-wide MPLS network to actually bind together all the campus areas. And then we had faculty IT to handle the more academic side and student side of this, supporting researchers also. But I mean, it had its caveats. I would say it was hard to actually do the big solution, the great solutions across the university. So in around 2-3 years ago, it was decided to actually merge all this into one IT department. So that's where we are now. One IT department handling all university. So now we can make the great solutions and roll out, especially on the security. We can do the solutions university wide.
Yeah. So the merger of the 5 faculties, has that been easy for you? What's the main?
No, it hasn't been easy, and we are not there yet at all. We still have all the infrastructure per faculty. We're dealing with that still. But now, as we look into this project, we're trying to actually build something new and move away from the old traditional networking.
Yeah. So when you realized the challenges you had, you also realized also at the management at your own architecture level, you decided to do something about it.
Yeah.
So when you decided to do a request for proposal, in Cisco we love RFPs, we're waiting for that all the time. What was the focus points? What did you bring into the RFP?
So of course we made this RFP to find which vendor could actually satisfy our demands, and some of the key points was of course security. We wanted to be able to push security more widely than we can now with all the segmentation. That's one big thing in the network. We haven't used that before, so that's a key point. And then the ease of deployment and administration, we can do it all from one place. That's also one of the bigger things. And then we have the visibility and the mobility side of it. So in the old days, when you were, you can say, bind to a faculty as an employee, and you were visiting some of the other faculties, you couldn't really connect to the network because it wasn't set up the correct way for that specific machine or computer. So this is something we want to avoid now and make one solution all over, and you can go to wherever area, campus area, and connect and do your thing.
Yeah.
So that's some of the key.
Yeah. Can you just highlight from the history? you have been touched upon the key challenges, the top 3 challenges that you had with the old infrastructure.
Yeah,
What was that?
Yeah, that was actually roll out the new solutions, supporting research with different kind of equipment needs to be connected to the network. It needs to be isolated, and we need to have security in mind as well. That has been really challenging in the old traditional way, because in the old way we could only do some sort of macro segmentation and then isolate it towards the firewall. Now we're really looking into do something more inside the macro segment, so you can have a more simple setup IP-wise and with VLANs and all. A simple setup where you can actually micro-segmentate different groups of equipment, so they are isolated in some sort of sandbox between them.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. So I'm going to turn to, now we kind of understood the size of the university. We understand what challenges you had, where you come from. So when you run through, obviously you got a lot of offers from your RFP process. So my question would be, why did you choose DNA Center?
Yeah. I think one of the major things was the administration of the network. We didn't see any other vendors actually came with one solution, like one network to rule them all. You had different management platforms which actually bind together, make the whole picture. But with the Cisco solution, you have one DNA platform, DNA Center, and from there you do all of it. Of course, in close cooperation with the ICE platform for all the identity, but the management of the switches and pushing out the policies, that's quite easy from DNA Center. So that was a major point. Yeah. And you can roll out solutions university-wide. So if you make new policy, it will be out there available in each corner of campus throughout Copenhagen. So so that helps a lot on the mobility as well.
So the RFP process, how long time did you spend on this, just for the audience to understand? What does it take for a size like this?
Well, before we actually came with the RFP, we did a lot of work beforehand. We made this document on stating what we really wanted to have at the university on the network side. Some sort of Bible, you can say. How do we want to approach security, and how do we want to approach research, and how do we want to isolate things between each other? So I would say that around a year before the actual RFP came out, we have been working on this document, so we were quite sure of what we wanted.
And you tested also the equipment quite heavily.
Yeah. We had
vendors before.
We had POCs from different vendors also in that time. Yeah.
Very good. So let's get to just here in the beginning, just to cover. I know that we started really kicking this off in the autumn of 2020. So what was important for Copenhagen University in the real early stages?
Yeah, since this is new technology and it's a quite big project, I would say. Together with the Cisco AS, we had this project plan and going through all the phases, and Cisco helped us a lot with what different steps and all the questions that needed to be asked and put on paper and documented. So that process really helps us a lot, I would say. Yeah. So we went through the solution requirements and the design phase, and actually right now we are in the implementation phase.
I know that from your projects, which we are of course working close together. I know you're working also with combining Cisco Advanced Services also with a partner involved. So that's also very important. So how do you see the it's a quite detailed process to go. How do you see the engagement with our Cisco services team and our partner services team?
Yeah, but it's been quite helpful running this project from someone who has done this before, I would say. So Cisco is there helping us with the 2 pilot sites that's been agreed on, and then the partner will take over and help us on the further travel.
Yeah. Any challenges you see?
Well, we are in a lockdown corona situation, so all of this has been done on video meetings, and that's been quite exhausting, I would say. But all the document and question back and forth, it has taken a lot of time. That's for sure. So we need to have this done besides the normal operation of the daily tasks.
Christian, there's nothing like a full day on WebEx.
Yeah, that's
really
fantastic. but I mean you are fairly tired in the evening, I would say.
But I think it's good that we can actually get this going, even though we're in a COVID-19 lockdown situation.
Yeah. It's of course it's not been the same as if we were present in the same meeting room and
whiteboarding and
especially now in the implementation phase, it would have been nice to be on site together. And make things happen, but that's just how it is.
Yeah, that's good. We actually, I want to say as well, we have from our fantastic colleagues in Netherlands, we had a lot of questions coming in from the recent session, and we actually have taken some of those questions to this session, so we respond to as many as possible. And we actually have a question here that I would like to pick out now. That is. It's coming from actually one of our good friends in the Danish business as well. Do you recommend a default allow opposed to a default deny policy? What do you do in Copenhagen University on that?
Well, we went for what Cisco actually recommends, the default allow policy. I know it sounds strange. I come from the data center with the ACI network where it's default deny. That's how we mostly like it, and then we open up for what traffic is needed. But the other approach was recommended because of all the things going on in the underlay, and you wouldn't interfere with that. I don't know if there will be a solution, easy solution for that in the future, but right now we will go for default allow. But when we create all the microsegments, we will of course remember to do the policy and mark them as deny between them.
Okay.
It's just something that you need to remember to do when you create the segments.
Right. Good.
And with that, the value of the new offerings about analytics, we have endpoint analytics and also the machine learning things. We can help by creating smarter policies and more advanced policies in the future as well, right?
Yeah. So thanks for the question from the Netherlands session, and thanks for the response, Christian. So now we actually learned a bit about. Everyone understands the size of the university, understand the challenges and the history, what we were faced with Copenhagen University, the process, what they've actually done, how they move forward. So I'd like with that foundation to move a little bit over to René. So you're one of our key experts, and you see a lot of these deployments across Denmark and actually across North as well, as you take part of European groups as well. So how do you see the Copenhagen University project?
I think that the Copenhagen University was very interesting because they came from a background that was non-Cisco. On the campus side, they have just invested in a new ACI strategy for the data center for like 3-4 years ago, something like that. And so the sort of the journey from going from where they were to a new involvement in their campus was quite a long journey. So we have been discussing over the table a long time, finding out what are the demands actually for a university for 2021 and further on. So the scale, the size, the history background, that's some of the interesting part, as well as they wanted to be number one in universities according to technology, to give the scientists the best possibilities. Of course, also maybe to attract funds outside to make it an even better university, I think. So that was, and then of course the knowledge in Copenhagen University by Christian and his peers working with it, focusing on the security side was very interesting.
Yeah, yeah, good. Thanks a lot for that. I see you're hiding your hand right here. Why is that?
That wasn't supposed to be told, but yeah, I did some homework in my garden, and it didn't went well. So
okay, perhaps the audience needs to see.
Nice is not so good when you don't know to handle them.
Okay.
Correct.
You should stick to networking and garden work.
Okay, that was a kind of a sidetrack. Let's get back on track. So René, could you take us through just what makes Copenhagen University interesting for the technology itself, but also for Cisco and for others to learn from as well?
Yeah, I think that some of the choices that the Copenhagen University have done makes it very interesting. Their ACI set up, so Christian has already higher knowledge about that because he was part of the process for ACI data center, and they have multi-site ACI data centers. They have chosen to focus a lot on the security side, so not only SDA for macro and micro segmentation, but also StealthWatch was a quite sort of high thing on the wish list because they wanted to have a deep insight of what is actually going on in the network as well, to be able to sort of cut down or be able to enforce policies when they see something bad happening on the network. So at the same time be secure, but also give freedom to scientists. I think that's the goal. And of course they have this also, they want to be mobile, so they have a mobility focus, but they have another vendor right now on the mobility side. So we have to interact between SDA on the campus for the switching part, and then at the same time have the data center with the policies, and then a third-party wireless setup on top. And then we come to the policy services. They change from another vendor to Cisco ICE as well. So I think it's a quite interesting sort of setup. There have been a lot of bricks in the puzzle to be fitted, and the goal is looking very good.
Yeah, yeah. And then moving to the use cases, perhaps take us through a little bit more the details on the use cases that the university is planning to already are deploying and planning to deploy in the future.
Yeah, yeah. I think that the first steps was, of course, to make sure that all the old hardware was exchanged with new hardware, but also to make it possible to make a security model that fitted the campus setup and the MPLS setup that Christian already done with his colleagues. Comparing to, I know they have also installed new firewalls at the same time, so a lot of new projects have been going on at the same time. But also to integrate the whole wireless system so that the user experience was the same. The guest portal, the EduRoam, and all the other parts were working alongside this. So I think that these are the main use cases to make sure that everybody can go into the university, to log on, to be safely comparted into their parts, and make any equipment to be possible to come in, but also be recognized by Cisco ICE and get them into the right portions of the macro and micro segmentations. I think quite a lot of use cases that have been covered.
Yeah. And also we heard that there's a third-party wireless. So perhaps you dig into what's the volume of the.
Yeah, I'll better let Christian talk to that because we are using the term over-the-top wireless networking, but you actually drop the traffic locally, right?
Well, today yes, but when we really reach the SDA and DNA network, it will be controller based, and it will be the controller hand over the traffic because right now with third party it's not possible to do it at that level we want it because we have more than one network to put wireless users on. So it will be done from the controller, but of course we will have the SDA network to be the transport for the CAPVAP tunneling. So from the AP to controller, it will be a separate VN handling this traffic.
And the number of APs you have right now?
Yeah, we have around close to 4,000, I think, right now, and still rising as we cover more areas.
New areas, yeah. I know you take new buildings in alongside
Yeah.
you are sort of installing this. You're also taking new buildings in to cover this.
Yeah.
Right? And when you look at the wireless part, you also change the policy servers, right? So you came from another setup on the guest portal.
Yeah. So eventually it will change. Right now it's still on the old, but eventually because we want to actually use the same guest portal for wired and wireless. So fairly soon we will have some common solution delivered by Cisco.
Yeah. And you also, I think there's a lot of in the audience are very interested in how did you actually deal with this micro segmentation part? Because I think that's one of the biggest headaches when you are going into these design workshops and solution design requirements to find out who is actually supposed to talk to who and where do I do sort of this setup. Yeah. Can you explain a bit what your thoughts about was?
It's really something you need to think a lot about, and we're not done yet at all. But we have made 6 high-level categories, which are supposed to be the macro segments. And inside those, we will create the different microsegments to suit our needs. And especially we have the client area. We will try to create only one microsegment, but within that microsegment, we will isolate all hosts between each other, so they can only go northbound. So that will be a nice, simple solution to handle all the normal office computers. Then we of course have printers, which also going to be isolated in one microsegment. Moving to the more exotic things like the research area, we will create a VN for research, and within that we will create a lot of microsegments. So every time a research group comes with some sort of equipment, some scanner or laboratory microscope or something, we can wrap it into its own microsegment and isolate it from the other in the network. And that's quite important. Some of the equipment is not being really securely patched and all, like you will do with a normal Windows computer. So that needs to be isolated from the rest of the university. And again, we want to make this sandbox from campus area to data center. And by doing that on microsegment level, we can isolate it all the way from A to B. So that's one of the big wishes.
But Christian, when you started up this process, can I say that you and your colleagues might had some idea to do a lot more microsegments? Is that correct?
Yeah.
So why did you change sort of to a more sort of simple approach?
I think it's the daily management. I would say to keep it simple. We have always been recommended not to have too many VNs. So we settle at around 6, I think it was, and it seems reasonable, and that's something we are going to stick with. And then we will of course do all the segments, microsegments. It's not fully done yet. I mean, it will evolve, especially in the research area, the BMS area. We will create a VN for BMS only, and every time we take a new building into the network, is probably some different vendor. So we will isolate them from each other with all the different solutions. So I would say it's more on the client side. We decided to actually lower the number of microsegments because otherwise you could do a security level A, B, and C, but you could also just decide that no one can talk to each other, and you can only go northbound towards the firewall, and then the firewall will handle it on the identity level, because that's one big great thing about this network is that we know every unit on the network is connected. We have the full visibility, and that we can take into the firewall and make policies around that.
Perfect. I think that what you have found there is a sound balance between manageability, security, and flexibility.
Yeah.
So you sort of covered all.
Yeah.
Because I think that from other installations. We have learned that having a pinpoint and micro-segmentation that is sort of narrowed down to each will be too much management in the end. Right?
Yeah,
so
if you go into DNA Center and you have a lot, you can see this matrix just getting bigger and bigger. So that's something we need to try and keep simple, but still without compromising security, of course.
There is actually a question coming that I would think is relevant to bring in here from our session in, and it goes like this regarding third party. Does DNA, what is the multi-vendor options with DNA Center? How far does it go, or is there no information available from these devices?
So that's a big question, yeah. But in a way, but
it's real.
Yeah, but in Christian's case.
Well, we do third-party wireless, but it's done over the top. So the DNA SDA network is only the transportation, but they do have the ICE platform in common for authentication. So we will still have all the information, but the DNA Center as such doesn't interact with the wireless platform.
Yeah,
today.
I think the friend here asking the question, he may also think about third-party devices if they connect to the fabric.
And I might reveal that going on where a lot of customers came from, like Cisco Prime today, where they had the possibility to just add MIP files and stuff like that. For third-party, we have what we call an SDK inside DNA Center to add third-party devices. But moving forward in the roadmap, we actually are planning to make it more easy to add third-party devices, also to have older Cisco devices and also Nexus devices actually inside DNA Center. So in time, it will evolve not to be the most third-party open, but it will be possible for customers with any kind of device to actually add them in to get the visibility, to get the sort of the topology view and the inventory view, and then of course all the external exposure to integrate with other systems like Cisco ICE, of course, but also like ServiceNow or Blue Box or several other vendors. Yeah.
There is another question that actually leads us to what we want to talk about here. The question is, does DNA integrate with ACI or perhaps other data center networking devices? So I think that's a good move to what Christian actually have done. So perhaps we could answer the question just upfront. Yes, it integrates, and then describe what Christian have done.
Yeah, Christian is a very good example. So please tell.
But we are still limited in the full integration as we have ACI in a multi-site setup, and that's not completely supported yet from DNA Center. And from the APIC side. But we have managed to come up with some solution that we will enforce the policy on the DNA Center. We need to create manually the EPG microsegments from the data center. We need to create these statically from ICE and make it visible in the DNA Center. And by that, we can do policies that one microsegment in the DNA network will only be able to communicate with that EPG from the data center, and that's so. It's not full integrated yet. We would love to see more dynamic updates of these segments, but on the ACI side, we're struggling with our multi-site setup, and it's not fully supported yet. So we need to make a more wide, broad opening from that side, and then we need to enforce the policy from the DNA.
Yeah, and for the more technical audience, you might tell which version are you running on the DNA Center side and ACI side?
So on DNA, we are running 2.1. I think it was
2.6, right?
Yeah, 6. Yeah. And on ACI, we are 4.2.6, I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, and then you have the ICE set up with
with the what is that?
2.7.
2.7 patch something. Yeah.
So
It's good numbers. It's really good numbers.
Yeah.
I love this. So I think also the process, we should touch upon how we have engaged with Copenhagen University with our business unit. I think that would be good just to highlight.
Because as Christian said, we have done a phased approach on the SDA to ACI integration. So today we call it a multi-domain integration, like we have SDA to SD-WAN and SD-WAN to ACI, and we also have the SDA to ACI. And you are helping us to go for the next level, right?
Yeah, because it's quite important for us, because we want to be able, since research is big on our university, it's half of the employees are research people, so we need to support this and make available what's needed for them to do the work. So what we want to do is make some sort of isolated sandbox so they can have equipment on the campus area, reaching equipment inside the data center. That could be storage or some compute thing. So, and that needs to be a big highway isolated from the rest of the university network. And we will not integrate firewalls in between this, so it has to be a direct connection between DNA and ACI.
So we are talking not 10, 40, but 100 gig.
Yeah, we could end up on 100 gig, yeah.
So the path is really high speed.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So I think that we are very glad that you are helping our business unit to identify the use case that you have around the multi-site orchestra that you use for in front of your ACI setup, which helps us go the last mile to have the fully nice solution between the integrations. Yes.
Yeah, that's excellent. So now we run through also the technology, the use cases. We even got to the releases as well. So thank you very much for that, Christian. So I think just to sum it up, you've been through a process, a journey, you could say, both together with your strong management, with your colleagues in the architect group. So for the whole of North Hairs, any advice you would give, what would that be?
Yeah, I mean, we quickly found out that we didn't have thought enough about the segmentation part. So that's definitely something I would recommend, to look really deep into. How do you want to segment your network? How do you want to create the microsegments? How many macro networks do you want before you start out? Because it will come up, the questions, and it will be something you need to think about. Another thing is how do you want to onboard hosts to the network? I mean, should it be done with authentication, with certificates, or profiling, and all these kind of things? Already now start your discussions with the security department. It's a quite important point to have in place, that's for sure.
Yeah. Possibly also important, as you did, to write down on paper an architecture document that, that looks a little bit.
We did have this architecture document to lean up against, and that was quite nice to actually have been through all these points, thinking about them beforehand. That's definitely, and we know which way to go from beginning.
Yeah. That's good. So I think what we want to do, I promised you in the beginning that we would also look at what's coming next in DNA Center. We would be looking at also on the high availability side and what's going to happen on the SDA to ACI integration. So thank you very much for sharing all your information and what you've done so far. We're definitely with you all the way.
Thank you.
We are done. So thanks for that, Christian. So with that, René, what's actually going to happen on DNA Center?
Yeah, that's a good question, Henrik. It's always difficult to talk about roadmap because it can change on the way. But anyway, what we're seeing right now is that the version 2.1.2.6, the one that Christian already runs at Copenhagen University, is the sort of main track for SDA setups, right? So in our SDA capability matrix, that's sort of the approved one, so to speak. What we have released recently is 2.2.1 release, which is in sort of more internal release based on only customer-specific setups, right? And then we will see in just a month's time or something like that, we will see 2.2.2, the next sort of big release from Cisco. We have some funny code names in Cisco, so this is called Fury, the one that's coming out. And there will be a lot of sort of new stuff again. We are focusing a lot about the endpoint sort of visibility, the way of using segmentation, like in Christian's instance, and also the possibility to be advanced in how to make the policies, actually. So to see the different devices that come into the network, who they are, give them a trust score, actually, so we know how we can trust them, and then put them into a policy and give an sort of a suggestion that that people can sort of count on, and then put them into the correct zone. So I think that's quite interesting. A lot of customers will love this setup. One of the challenges we had in Copenhagen University was also the dual data center part and the placement of DNA centers, right? So in the former versions of code, we have the possibility to do high availability by using a cluster. So instead of only one single DNA appliance, we could have 3 DNA appliances, right? I have made a short slide on that, so we can show that. But anyway, the idea is that to do high availability, you have 3 DNA centers, and that forms a cluster. But a lot of customers don't like to buy 2 times 3 DNA centers to make it high availability, to make a disaster recovery site. So in the version that's out right now, it's possible to make what we call a disaster recovery site. So you have like a sort of witness site, a VMware broker that checks that the first site is okay, and if it's not okay, it will send the data out to the second site. But that was a 3 cluster in the one site and a 3 cluster in another site. Based on a customer expectation and wishes, what we have released now in 2.2.1 is the possibility to have a single DNA center in one site, data center site, and another single DNA center on another site to make this disaster recovery happen as well. So that's some of the advancement to make the installation more smooth and the number of DNA centers going down, right? So that's one of the possibilities. I know, Christian, can you tell what you have done in yours?
Yeah, well, we have a three node cluster in one site. So we're waiting for the feature that we can actually build out the cluster to a second site and have some sort of dynamic failover between the sites if we see any failure. Yeah.
And how important is that for you? Is that something you're really looking out for?
Well, you can say that if you lose a DNA center, you cannot do administration, but the network will keep running. So that's why we're still pretty relaxed having it only in one center. We decided that because we know that if it goes down, the network will keep running. But we of course will lose some of the visibility and administration, but we can live with that until the platform is up and running again.
Yeah. But I know you have already told our business unit how important it is.
Yeah, so for sure.
So I think really we better get it going. So
and I think that what Christian points to right now is a very important thing, because that's one of the myths around SDA/DNA is that when the DNA center might go down, the fabric is going down, but that's not correct. As Christian just said, the network is still running, so
absolutely.
No problem.
Absolutely. Anything else to share on new releases and stuff?
We talked about the high availability part, but also we just briefly discussed about the integration between the domains, right? So right now in what we call phase 2.0, and people that have sort of attended Cisco Live will see a similar slide here where you can interact SDA with ACI fabric on both sides. You can have them co-located, or you can have them between SD-WAN that can be between them, or like a direct connection or a firewall connection between them, like Christian is, you're not having the firewall, but you have the direct connection anyway. The problem about the setup at Christian is that he has dual data centers, and we are not supporting that yet. So that will be in phase 2.5. We are coming to the setup where we can do not only data plane, control plane, and policy plane. So all 3 planes will be integrated between ACI and SDA. We can do that today, but only on a single site data center. So in the future, with Christian's help and other nice customers, we will have the possibility to do a dual data center setup as well.
Okay, sounds good. So high availability, new in DNA center releases. I think very good information. I hope it was useful for everyone attending. We're actually getting to the end of the session now. So I just want to touch upon some closing remarks, and we're always looking forward to what's going to happen next. So imagine, Christian, you're already done with DNA Center, software-defined access. You're a hero in Copenhagen University. So what's going to happen next then, Christian?
Well, it will still take some years to actually totally finalize this transformation, but I think the wireless area is something that we need to look into. We have the Wi-Fi 6, which is quite interesting. Maybe we want to have the employee more integrated with wireless into the network. Today it's more a student service for this eDoRoam, and then we of course have the guest network. But more integration into a real employee network from the wireless side, that's something we definitely going to look at. Yeah.
What's your thoughts on visibility? You know, there's some in the industry. There's a kind of hype around visibility.
Yeah, we want visibility, of course, by knowing who's connected to the network, but also we have the StealthWatch platform, so all the flows will be sent to StealthWatch, so we can keep track on what's going on inside the network. We haven't had that before neither.
Good.
So
good.
And
we may bring new technology that would have your interest in the future as well. So on this area. So thank you very much, Christian. And René, some final thoughts from you. What's the if we look at the development and now you see a lot of these deployments and a lot of interactions, what's your advice to look out for in the near future?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Henrik. But yeah, it's a big question, but I think that a lot of customers in our customer base is using Cisco Prime today, right? They are looking at when do we go for next level, like Cisco DNA Center. And I think that this year is the year where you will shift from Prime to DNA Center. We will come at a lot of sort of the things that we sort of missed from Cisco Prime into Cisco DNA Center. So stay tuned on that part. And look for these new things, so you can make the move, right? We can already integrate Prime and DNA today, but I think that the message will be same sort of approach that Copenhagen University had. Change the network gear, change the gear to a level where you can actually make benefits of this macro segmentation part, which security is key today, right? Security is the one. And also the visibility to see what's actually going into your network. And we have invested in 1,000 eyes in Cisco, and we have just released the possibility that everybody that has the advanced level of licensing for like SDA or similar setups can get 1,000 eyes embedded into their network. So it's a part of the licensing structure. So now we can give it even more visibility, not only inside the network, but also outside the network to the cloud. So invest in the right platform, invest in the right management center, which will be the DNA center, and then of course make sure that you have a policy server. Again, a key point for your installation is the policy server. So Cisco eyes, either on-prem or in cloud, can be used. And then of course the Wi-Fi, because mobility is key, right? So Wi-Fi 6 is some of the drivers for the new setup. So a combination of security, visibility, and of course the automation piece in the bottom will make you have a strong network focusing on the future.
That's a good advice. That's good advice. So with that, we are actually getting to the very, very end. So thanks very much for joining me. Thanks for responding to all the questions. And Christian, thanks very much for helping us out. We think your project is extremely interesting for us, and we would support you anyhow we can in the near future. So with that, we are at the end. Thanks for listening in, everyone. I hope it was interesting for you. We will continue our Get Real with DNA Center in the coming months. The next country that will be up will be Finland, where my peer in Finland, Mika Järvinen, he will be the one driving, and we will listen into what is happening on DNA Center, Getting Real with DNA Center in Finland. So thanks for joining, everyone. See you.